As you know from my history, I worked with CAMP for nearly 2 years. I was very much part of the whole drive to push for the mediation legislation. In hindsight today, sometimes I feel like we might not really require it. We could have just made some amendments to the Arbitration and Conciliation Act instead of codifying an entire process. But then there's another argument that are like two little devils in my head pulling me on both sides. Where one says, if you don't have the legislation, no one's going to take mediation seriously. But then there's other one saying, if you codify it, people are going to take mediation too seriously, and suddenly the procedure is going to come in the way of the process. And what do I mean by that? Documentation, how you bring the mediators in. So parties will not be able to design it. Mediators will be, kind of have to follow rules to design their process. And mediation is such a beautiful, flexible process that sometimes codification might not work. I've been speaking to a lot of international mediators who say India might have not taken the right decision by codifying mediation. But then there are also successful stories of codifying mediation. Australia has a codified mediation law. So does Canada. Certain jurisdictions, the US, Ireland recently came up with a mediation law. I know that Mr. Jawad, who's a very loved mediator in India, is going to be speaking with an Irish mediator in a couple of days on another platform, talking about jurisdictions and mediation legislations. So I'm a bit conflicted at this point of time in my career as to where I stand on this, but I do hope that if it does get codified, everyone's voices are taken into consideration and it's not monopolized by certain people who feel it's right. And it's actually debated with an open mind, and every stakeholder is taken into consideration. And there is a generation of young lawyers and young ODR practitioners and young ODR entrepreneurs who need to be consulted before this law comes into force. Because at the end of the day, it's these folks who are going to drive that practice forward over the next 10, 20 years. That's all I can say.
That's a very interesting take on this question. Nishant, what are your views?
No, I completely agree with Jonathan and on that. I was also always in two minds, but I think now that the bill is coming, it is important because, in my viewpoint, from three aspects. One is that it is definitely going to create awareness, especially awareness amongst the users, your corporates, your regular disputing parties. What awareness hoga? Even when the Ayodhya dispute was mediated, there was so much awareness about mediation at that point. Just that one case got that much awareness. So I think with the mediation bill coming and the publicity that comes with it, there will be the awareness. And the second and third are the standards and quality. So there is it is with the coming of the bill, there will be certain standards and quality with which we would want to be in place. So I think those three are important aspects as to why we feel that the bill will help the practice of mediation.
Right. Thank you so much for your thoughts.